make me feel like a bad girl. Feel like a
into my bones and veins. Still feel you feeling me. I can't seem to release this pain that you've planted inside me. You can take this from me, but you won't watch me bleed. You can take this from me, but you won't watch me bleed. You won't watch me bleed. Just say all the things in my way. I'll show you crazy. Still feel you feeling me. I can't seem to find peace. I can't let go. Every time you lose control, it's another blood I hold. When you stick it twisted now, so get off those roads. I'll show you crazy. It takes some time to realize it's not your fault. It took me time, my whole damn life, to find the power that's in my hands. To find the power, to find the power that's in my hands. You don't have a hold on me. I have on myself.
Good evening, Overwatch fans and Wonderwall enjoyers. Welcome to another week here on the Overwatch 2 Arena Clash Series group stages. I'm Big Hungry Phil. Joining me again is Man of Class and Classy. We've got what should be, on paper at least, one of our closest matchups tonight.
It should be. I mean, they've been playing for the past 3 weeks, and now we're in week 3 now, and standings are starting to take shape. So we're currently looking at the number 2 and 3 teams. So yeah, they have not lost a single map yet. 2 3-0s under the belt. Now they got to go up against each other, and like you said, not just because of the standings, but just because of who we know around these teams. This should be a very close matchup.
Yeah, that's right. So those of you that have been following Arena Clash for a little while, like I have, certainly will recognize some players on the whole side of things, that being the Humber Hunters Bane team that we have playing today in the form of iBroadwell and Mello. We'll talk a little bit more about them when we get to the rosters. But yeah, again, on paper, the mathematics, everyone who's played so far against one another, this should be, hopefully, no more 3 Overwatch, maybe some 3-1, maybe even some 3-2 Overwatch. Maybe we'll see a number bigger than 3. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know if we can, but we can definitely go to a map 6 if they draw somehow. So
true. Yeah, I was doing my maths the wrong way there, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand where you were going with it, but I mean, just without further ado, we don't have to go really into the rosters at all, because I already hear the map music going on. Looks like we're going to go to a control map first, which is the standard. We're going to go starting on Busan this week. Like you said, the Humble Hunters, and then on the other side we have the Budgies. They're coming out there,
I part of me wants to highlight this name, part of me wants to just skip merrily by and pretend it doesn't exist. This is of course the Bristol Smugglers : Budgie. Make of that what you will. And yet, starting out here, it's going to be Busan, and it's going to be Sanctuary. And Classy, obviously, we have Overwatch League Grand Finals and playoffs going on at the minute, so we kind of know what the meta at the highest level should look like. Do we think we're going to get that today?
Well, we even if we wanted to, we couldn't, because they're playing on a different patch altogether.
Of course they are.
So we're likely to see, at least if they want to play meta on this current patch that we're on live, then we're going to see some Zarya and still Sojourn, because those are just like the meta picks there. But while Kiriko is available, these are just, again, these are not the teams that will always play the highest meta. And if you're going to not go there, one of the heroes that always comes out is that Pharah. And we see it. iBroadwell with Mechalodon on the Pharah Mercy.
Indeed, we are on board with Munter a minute, and there's the Zarya. Zarya up against the D.Va. A bit of a natural inclination towards the Zarya to win that one out, but it is iBroadwell with the first damage on the board, both a turret and an enemy player off the board. Casual look away as Sabatabi is down to the direct rocket. There's a K on the Torbjorn there, just poking the head around the corner, but this is very clearly going to be going the way of the Humber Hunters.
Yeah, and traditionally in Overwatch, we're now going to see two options. Either going to try and stick with this, maybe switch to a hit scan to try and deal with that Fire Mercy, or they go to the Fire Mercy of their own. Currently, they're going to choose option A, so to not switch to the Fire Mercy of their own. Ooh. And starting off good.
Okay, we do actually get a kill out of that barrage. Don't always see the success come through on that one, but a turret and Munter down here. Kills still coming through now for the Smugglers, who will get the chance to move to the point and start to flip this over. I don't think we've got much chance of a recontest until we get the 4-6, and Sabatabi is in deep, really wants to herd them back in towards the spawn. There's the cap and the percentage ticking up.
I like the switch from Munter as well, going over to that D.Va. He just gets so much more value, especially against that Pharah out of it, but also against the Reaper. Just able to deny so much more damage than the Zarya would be able to on a more consistent basis.
And we might not be on the Owl patch, but we still have a very, very strong DPS pick in the form of the Sojourn coming in for Sabatabi. So watch for those rail headshots. Those can be real fight deciders here, but Charlie's already out of mech. Peacock TPs into the back. That's going to be another slowdown and wait here, because they can't go in without the D.Va mech, and Charlie themselves now down.
Nice headshot coming out from K. One of the biggest skills about playing Torbjorn, hit those headshots with the gun. If you ever want to become a Torbjorn one trick, or just a player, learn how the gun works. It's the biggest tip I can give you for that one. And K seems to have it down.
That's why we got you on broadcast, Classy. We need these deep mechanical insights from you.
Come on, we've heard this from every Torbjorn one trick in EU for the past 4 years, I think. It's not news to either of us. But hey, maybe to some people.
Nice predictor. Anti-in over the top of the Transcendence. We lose K in the middle of the Transcendence, who didn't quite get that ultimate online. You see Sabatabi pushing in here, has the rail now, has the overclock, but the flip has come through. That's been Hall able to get in on top of that. Barrage in from iBroadwell. Neuer down to the rockets. Munter finds iBroadwell. Sorry, iBroadwell finds Munter here, and the kills continue to come through now for Hull. A couple of kills on the back end here, but if we see Charlie get out here, it's almost certainly going to be a chance to stop and regroup and keep holding.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a back to spawn and try again here for the Smugglers. Not coming in too badly into this fight, though. They definitely got one of the most powerful DPS ultimates in the game at the moment. Could just go for the full ace here, could Sabotabi. But even that Molten Core, just corralling them in the right position, they could do a lot of combos with that. Silent of the Amp Matrix is really close. Like, a lot of potential for different combinations or just separate usages of these ultimates that should just win them a fight.
I think I'm looking for an aggressive Molten Core here, rob some space from the contest for Hull, and that's going to be it down. It is actually on the opponent's side of the point here, so they're going to try and back out, and they've got to back out over that Molten Core. There have been no kills coming out the back of that just yet. I think K did a bit of damage there, follows it up with the primary fire, and Charlie's down. Amplification Matrix right in the middle of point, but a lot of that is blocked out by the central drum. Immortality doesn't survive the Death Blossom, and Peacock finds the 2K. Rez somehow comes off here. Mechalodon, incredibly brave with that one, brings iBroadwell back into the fight, who is back up and punching well above their weight here, finding both Neuer and contributing to the kill onto Silent as well. iBroadwell has another barrage here. There's the D-Mech. Sabotabi with the overclock finds iBroadwell. They're not going to get the flip here. It's 99 to 63, and there are just maybe enough players here from the Smugglers to flip this back.
Oh, it's a Nano Boosted Diva. That's they're very dangerous to fight against. They got it back. They got to worry about that overtime flip, though. It's a new mechanic in Overwatch 2, and it's working as intended. You have to contest the objective within the 3 seconds before that point gets kept back at 99. Otherwise, you just lose outright.
A lot of resources thrown at keeping Neuer and Silent on the point. They get bullied off it, and they get blown back into the spawn here. With the barrage from iBroadwell. More of a zoning barrage there. Doesn't find kills, but that's going to be Munter out of the mech, out of life, back in spawn. Humber Hunters back in control of the point, and that's going to be OT ticking down. And it's 1 point on the board here on Busan.
Mechalodon was single-handedly winning that game. Like, not just because they got the res off, but they managed to survive afterwards for way too long. If that res doesn't go off, Mechalodon is alive. You're missing a support. You're missing, I think they res iBroadwell. So you're missing a DPS into that. And there's just a lot of resources and just players on the point that aren't there to stall that out. The point flips, the percentage goes higher. Like, there's so much that changes about the entire dynamic. Sabotabi almost pulls it back on their own with that overclock, though, so you can see how dangerous that ultimate is. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of these overclocks coming out, just decimating the other side, basically punishing them for not playing Sojourn, I would almost say. But we're going to see at least some change up from the side of iBroadwell. Going to see the Sombra come out. It also means that Mechalon and Mello is switching over to the Sombra, sorry, the Moira and the Lucio.
Yeah, both teams coming in with much more of a kind of brawler bruiser style, particularly with the Zarya available for both teams. iBroadwell with the spray down won't land the connect and find the kill, but Silent is down. K is down as well. Charlie, 75 charge and moving on in, finds Munter, and it's a quick back to the point to get the cap. Very clean here from the Humber Hunters.
Super clean indeed. And I mean, we talked about it, right? This is not the patch that I was currently playing on. So it's not just Zarya that's a pretty good hero, but Sombra has also got way more, damage boost on their hacks. The hacks can go on the same target constantly if they want to. They could just perma-hack somebody. There's a lot to worry about there from iBroadwell.
Yeah, the mechanic here is maybe not necessarily get the hacks, but just tilt your opponent out of the game entirely. And out of the game, that's Neuer and Munter both here. Just a wall of damage in the form of Peacock and Charlie, running it down mid and sending them packing.
Yeah, you can just see how much damage is coming out of that Zarya, but even how much healing, like that burst heal that's coming out of that Moira, the constant AoE that's going on, has just been doing so much more healing than even Neuer and Silent combined, it feels like.
Nice hack, but Sabotabi keeps through cool, finds iBroadwell with the rail. Out comes the Gremlin Surge, that's Silent caught in that, burned through the Immortality field, and they may have lost iBroadwell, but they've got more than enough HP, more than enough damage, and more than enough crosshairs aimed the way of Bristol.
Another team kill gong comes through, and I mean, how many more of those team kill gongs are you gonna hear before this map's just over? Only one way to answer that question is the Graviton is now coming in for Munter pretty soon, but there's a Death Blossom and a Sound Barrier to fight against those.
Here it is, out it goes, the pin is pulled and Peacock picks up 4 with the Death Blossom. Charlie gets the finishing blows on that one, and it's 75% and rising here. Munter use their Graviton in that fight, and so there is almost nothing control-wise on the board here for ults for Bristol.
Just hiding around the corner. It's the standard Reaper play. Like, either you try and sort of teleport into the middle of them, which is dangerous, or you can just wait for the setup, because you've got the defense. I brought, well, does the solo elimination on Sabotabi as this fight's just going to take off before it even starts.
Yeah, K forced to use the high noon there just to reload and keep themselves contributing to the fight. Didn't have the space to wait for the damage to tick up. Charlie doesn't have to wait for the damage to tick up. It's at 100, as is the point. A clean 2-0 on Busan. Put Hull in the lead after one map.
Humber Hunters Budgie coming in here with that first point win. Actually, it was Bane, right?
It's
yeah,
Humber
Budgie is
Hunters Bane, yeah.
Bristol Smugglers were the Budgie. I'm terribly sorry, guys. It's a lot of words to learn. No, it's the teams. I mean, you can kind of clearly see that they're very comfortable on the heroes that they're playing on the side of Hull. Bristol has some interesting strategies and like hero picks in their in their arsenal, so to speak, but so far not really turning out as successfully, at least on the Hull side. That being said, it's only map 1. We're going to at least see 2 more, maybe 4, maybe 5. Who knows?
Maybe we'll be here for the rest of time.
Yeah, that could be. You know, I think almost every map. No, not every map type. I think literally Escort and Hybrid are the ones you can still draw on.
Yeah,
the other 2 aren't. So we could see a couple of extra maps, but not more than 7.
I think you can draw push, can't you? If you both hit point A.
No, there's. I think there's like one of those mechanics, like who was last in control of the bot or something. Okay. Like we've seen this a couple of times in Overwatch, at least one time in Overwatch League. They explain how it works. I don't remember because it's such a thing that never. It was something about like who was last in control of it, and it's like the last extra millimeter or something. There was something about that, but hey. We don't really have to worry about it. I don't think that's really going to be something that we're going to run into today. So let's worry instead about what they're going to go with potentially for hybrid. I mean, we've seen Bristol be fairly confident on something like, at least they want to play the Zarya a little bit, but they might also just want to go for more creative picks, so to speak. And both teams have been fairly swapping around, swappable, as we say.
Yeah, there's been a lot of variation in hero picks. I think is the slightly more wordy way of putting that. I think we have seen a little bit of a tendency for K to be more comfortable on the Torbjorn. Obviously, we saw them swap over onto the Cassidy in the last part of that map just gone. But we do, I want to say, suffer from this a little bit here at Arena Clash. The curse of the one trick. Kind of one of the persistent, and again, I'm going to say problems, but one of the things that happens in these kind of grassroots tournaments is you do tend to attract one tricks, or at least specialists. Yes. There are certainly points here where a Torbjorn could work, because this will be Bristol's map pick, and they've elected to go to Eichenwald for our hybrid map. But Cassie, I want to talk about what Bristol can do to capitalize on some gaps in the way Hull were playing. I think we got to the end of Mecha Base without iBroadwell actually generating and being able to use an EMP. And so if you can continue to pressure a DPS character like that out so they just don't get that value, that puts you in a very close, let's call it 4.5 V5 without that ultimate. So like a little more of that kind of thing from Bristol.
And even then, right, like we talked about the Sombra there, but even on the Pharah, there were a lot of instances like that first barrage didn't really get that much value. And the second one really only got value because Munter just happened to be looking in the wrong direction at the wrong time. But normally a D.Va just gobbles up that entire ultimate and you're kind of done there. So there's definitely some opportunity there to capitalize on either insufficient or inefficient ult usage from the DPS on the side of Hull. That being said, it's not just about exploiting that on their side, but it's also about exploiting your own DPS prowess, because Sabotabi's been doing really well on the Sojourn when they get the chance to actually get some shots off. So hopefully we're going to see a little bit more on that on a map where there's more space, maybe some more high ground for the defense that you want to use. And Eichenwald, it's a very good pick for that. Just more choke spam, more high ground mobility around. And I hope that they've got something special in store for us.
I think one of the things that's really interesting about Eichenwald in particular as a map is the way that like the style doesn't always have to, but can change quite massively from A to B to C, particularly because point A and point C, the high ground is relatively low as high ground goes, whereas this castle we're looking at right now on screen is maybe the biggest high ground to low ground transition we have in the entire game, and really favors your mobility heroes and your dive tanks. But point A, point C, you kind of want maybe somebody a little bit brawlier, a little bit more close up and personal. And so if you're not set up to operate against all 3 points, you can find yourself cycling through ult charge quite a lot.
Yeah, and there's obviously been different transitions in metas throughout the game's history, especially with this map, that have led teams to either swap around a lot between different points or just be able to run something through the entire stage. Usually you find that being on the same comp doing the entire map is more ult efficient, but with this new passive that's come in that everyone keeps at least like at a maximum of 30% ult charge when switching heroes, maybe switching between points becomes more efficient this way. Sabotabi already showing how accurate they can be with this Sojourn, getting that Peacock out of the way. And let's see what iBroadwell is going to be trying to do to get past this choke, because it doesn't seem to be as easy as just rolling through.
No, this time there are some dedicated threats directed at the Pharah, the Echo, the Diva, and the Sojourn can do a lot of damage there. That is a heck of a lot of damage going the way of Charlie, and with the anti over the top, they had to get out of dodge nice and quick. The one benefit of that will be that ult charge goes over to the supports there to keep Charlie in this fight, but so far not a lot of progress gained here. K momentarily forced out of the way as the dive comes in from the Wrecking Ball alongside the spam from iBroadwell on the Pharah, and it's back to the point to recover, and we see them start to move towards the point. Charlie pops the adaptive shields, gets a nice covering there, and manages to secure the D-Mech. K's down to Mellow, and it spins a win on the point here for Charlie. They trade out Peacock, but I'm feeling classic like the damage has been done. Not much chance here for a solid recontest for Bristol.
Yeah, and whereas there might be some holes in the DPS line for Hull here, Bristol has a glaring hole in the fact that Munter is just being very split in their attention at the moment, like trying to figure out who do I go after, who do I protect, who do I peel, where am I going, and the DPS, especially in Peacock, are taking such advantage of that at the moment.
Yeah, it's difficult. There's a three-pronged attack here, because obviously the Reaper can get in and cause trouble. The Wrecking Ball is designed to do that, and you've got a pocketed Pharah. Like, where do you divert these resources without your DPS stepping up to the plate? And K is going to make the move onto the Soldier to try and provide a little bit more pressure. Out comes the barrage. Good use of the defense matrix there from Munter, who receives the nano. Almost gets knocked up the side there. Not going to give any attention over towards Charlie and look to try and find some squishy supports here. Peacock out of the way. And now we've got the minefield up on the high ground. Charlie gets the roll through and isolates Neuer. Silence down as well. And now there are no supports available for Bristol. And this is going to be a slow crumble here with no one to bring the tanks back into the game.
The advantage is that they've basically been fighting on point 2, but the cart's barely been moving. There's just one support on it, which is Mellow on the Ana. So they have a very, very good amount of time to just come back and recontest. Like, there's no problem with that. They got a lot of ultimates coming up, so this should at least be one fight that they can win and then hold the card for a little bit, even though there's resources on Hull side.
Looks like we do have a possibility of a nano death blossom coming out here. In fact, immediately pulls the pin on it. K and Silent down here. There will be the self-destruct available. Peacock hops behind the cart, survives through that one, finds Munter before they can get back in the mech. Sabotabi popped the ult, but couldn't pop their heads to go with it. And it's time to knock down the doors and roll into C.
It can be such a hard one to get out of the chokes of that castle, but unfortunately, without a tank to really lead the charge, it's even harder to do. They got Munter swapping over to the Sigma, now going to be a little bit more grounded, a little bit more solid in their anchor position, without flying around all the time on that Diva. Let's see if it's going to be enough to deter this DPS or even the tank on the other side.
I guess the thought here is there's another tool to try and slow down Charlie, but that's still going to be a big ask here as we see Hull start to take aggressive trident positions here, providing a lot of crossfire, dropping the mines on the right-hand side so the supports are pulled up there and able to get out. But here for Bristol, they have found Mellow and Peacock here. K pops the tactical visor, is on the hunt, knows that there is a Pharah coming at them. It's the solo barrage. It's about sending a message. A couple of kills on the back end here for Hull, but I feel like the numbers and the respawn advantage are just too strong right now for Bristol.
The problem is they want to try and get this far out of the way, but they keep sending 1 or 2 members after, and that's just not enough to take this far out of this spammy position. Instead, they're just going to go after Peacock, and why not? I mean, if the Far at Mercy don't want to get out of that little hole, just leave them in there. And eventually, they show their face, and in the open, there are easy targets to hit for Kay and Munter. So now there's finally a cleanup.
Yeah, finally some semblance of a defense here and an opportunity to burn some time off the clock, because we were very close to a 4-minute plus time bank here on C.
Oh, yeah.
And currently we've not really got anything on board for Hull to try and break through this defense.
Well, they're close to the Nano Death Blossom again. You know how quickly they can build that up and how effective they've been with that so far. Problem is that this time they have no doorway to just like set up around the corner of, so should be a little easier to see coming for Bristol.
iBroad was now on the Genji, and remember, again, this is the pre-nerf Genji, so all that additional ammo and additional damage, there's a lot that can be done here, comboing with your tank's damage. In comes the Flux, that's going to catch Broadwell, who is down. It becomes a shooting gallery for K, and we're now down below 3 minutes for the Humber Hunters.
Peacock is still behind them. I saw them teleport into the alleyway behind. So they might still be hidden there, and that could be very dangerous. Like I said, they can't set up for Bristol to walk into them in the way that they did before, but now they've kind of done that again. Like they're in behind, they can just sort of show up in the middle of the team without using any resources. And if Mello is ready for the nano boost, this could be devastating.
Needs a couple of shots. There it is. Gets knocked back. TP into the back line. There it is. Nano Death Blossom, a Taylor's orders time. It finds one, and the Immortality Field grab already offline for Charlie. Lots of a couple of supports, and everybody is battered into that right-hand corner. Peacock rests up in the space that provided, and that is a slow-moving, battered-looking Sigma trying to keep this alive. Sabatabi back in on the Tracer, eats a face full of lead from Peacock, and there's the cap, just shy of 2 minutes for the Humber Hunters.
And it wasn't even the Nano Death Blossom. It was just a Death Blossom. That's how deep in Peacock was. And then the Nano comes out on the Pharah afterwards, or the Pharah on the Zarya afterwards, to just melt everything to bits. It was, yeah, it kind of feels like the same old. They keep pulling the same trick. It's a Reaper in the backline that just gets a free Death Blossom, and there's nothing they seem to be able to do against it. Like, when we look at this Reaper in the current Owl meta, it makes sense. They just put a Kitsune Rush on it or something. There's always something that gives them the extra speed boost, the Beyblade's back, but just a neutral Death Blossom almost shouldn't be allowed to get this much value when you've got this much setup time that's needed for it, and this many resources to try and stop it. Like, I know there's less CC, but there's still enough defensive resources that they shouldn't be getting a 3k every time.
I do feel like they have made at least one adaptation to try and reduce the risk of getting Reaper blossomed, particularly Munter moving over onto the Sigma, between the Kinetic Grasp, the Shield, and the Accretion, that can stun Reaper out of that ultimate. Like, those are tools, but they all rely on skill shots and making sure you are tracking positioning and ability cooldowns, so it's not a perfect fit. And of course, the Immortality Field from Silent, that goes in a fraction of a second under the pressure from a Death Blossom, so they don't really have, like, many tools. It gives Munter a lot to do.
Yeah, it really feels like the one thing to stop a Reaper Death Blossom nowadays. Like, CC, you just can't save for it anymore unless you play maybe like an Orisa that can just spear him. But everything else, just you need to kind of one-shot him. You need to kill him really quickly while you have some sustain up in your backline. This is the only way.
Big opener here from Neuer, finds the body onto Peacock, who's down. Sabatabi with eyes for the skies. Megalodon down. Broadwell no longer having that pocket. Going to have to rely on Mello, keeping them honest and up in the sky. But no, Mello's down now as well. And this has been a very quick attack coming in from Bristol. And if they can just block up this doorway, well, that's going to be it. Munter might be in a bit of trouble here, but no. Throws the rock, dodges the corner, and is back with the team and ready to roll.
I really like the way that they approach that tower as well. Pharah can be behind it, but if you approach from two sides, she's going to show her face at, either side of it. Really quickly dealt with that Pharah Mercy, pressured them out with K and Sabotabi on either side of it. Wow. Mello does get the elimination on K here, but this is always one of those spammy approaches. Like, once you're through this door, it becomes a lot easier to sort of deal with that high ground. But that's the trick, getting through the door without losing anybody.
Amp Matrix up for Silent. That could be a nice way to bust through this particular archway. We'll keep everybody honest. They lose Peacock. Amp Matrix out now, and they're trapped in the grab. But Neuer finds 2 through that one-eye Broadwell and Charlie down, and that was a big investment of ultimates, the barrage and the graviton surge from Hull.
Looking towards this point B, they're in a very good spot. Got a couple of hit scan on the high ground. Just a lone Zenyatta on the cart, but they'll be fine. And Munter already pushing very far forward. We saw the Hull doing the same thing, like that Bristol's following suit, just putting that aggression on them constantly.
Yeah, and of course it's forced the swap out of Hull here. They acknowledge that they can't make the power work here with the amount of pressure that's coming their way, but it puts them very heavily on the back foot. They're having to rebuild a lot of ultimate charge after that fight. But it's a good opener because Neuer with the defensive ultimate is out of the fight entirely. Peacock finds a second, finds a third. Silent down here as well. TP up onto the high ground, and the defense do be defending, Classy.
Peacock starting on the Sojourn, but figuring out very quickly that, you know what, I was doing so well on the Reaper, why would I ever swap? Already up to 65% ult charge, of course kept 30 from the Sojourn from before. Now they're just going to be able to hold on to this high ground most likely. But the carts moved a decent bit, so it really only takes like 1, maybe 1.5 fights to get there.
But of course, they have to find a way to dislodge this high ground hold. And other than the fact that they've got a lot of ults at their beck and call here, like, this is not a great way to push into a fight. Okay, Gravlux finds 2. Bit of follow-up damage there onto Melon. Munter closes the gap, and they're down now. There are no supports for the defense. They can throw their bodies at this and try and make this a little more expensive and a little bit slower, and they almost certainly will get a contest here. But I think with the rate at which Broadwell is going to go down here, because they almost certainly no, they win out the duel, and Kate is down. This could be a big contest now.
So one of those moments where you should not be losing that duel because there's a support that should be able to help you out. And then overclock with the Amp Matrix. No one wants to peek that. Oh, Peacock wants to get in close though. Got the Death Blossom ready too.
Oh, Sabo Tabby absolutely puts pay to Peacock in a painful way here. And if the kills come through, that's going to see us have Bristol Budgie Smugglers rolling through into point C with a knock on the door.
Munter's really found their own in this Sigma as well. Like, this is looking so well in terms of performance. Like, overall, they're just holding their own on the front line and even dealing with some of the squishes in the back line of Hull at the moment. It's a much better look from them than the Zarya and the D.Va have been so far.
Yeah, and it's a lot more versatile, particularly as we move into point C. Self-destruct out from Charlie. Charlie already got out, but I mean, from the grave, from the back of the court, the 3-pointer, Charlie finds the forced reset onto Bristol.
Really, really nicely done there from Charlie, just placing on the bridge. It is one of the more open spaces in the Overwatch universe that is very hard to dodge a self-destruct unless you have some sort of shield or defensive ability. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like the hardest one to hit, but it's still just the recognition to stop the momentum, to make sure that you can set up a defense a bit properly. Peacock still has a Death Blossom, hasn't used it for about a minute now. They're probably going to have their trigger finger itching.
Oh, okay. K with the tactical visor will find Broadwell, but not before Broadwell gets the Bob out. The Bob doesn't do too much here. There's the Death Blossom with the Nano again. It's a classic. There's two with the primary fire. Charlie getting the sweep up on that one. And a fairly big investment of ults here of the past minute for the Humber Hunters.
Yeah, they had been holding on to them for quite a while because they didn't really have a lot of opportunity to use them before with all the momentum push that was coming out from Bristol. But now they did use pretty much all of them at once. So no really an ult cycle going on rather than just a rinse and repeating. They do still have the Valkyrie, but against what they've got on the other side, that is not a huge deal.
No, it's not one of the more impressive ults in the game. That's a nice flux. There's 3 caught in that one, I believe. But as the Valkyrie's running, the healing done whilst they're in the air is too much, and the Graflux doesn't find the kills, just the underlying damage. Sabotavi kicks things off here with the headshot onto Peacock. Comes out of that with the overclock ready to go, and they know exactly where they put it to come from. And K just spams it with the hands though. Broadwell down, forced to burn the rest from Megalodon. And this is a lot of forward point pressure from Munter here. And we're almost at the end, 3 meters and counting. Amp Matrix up. Oh, a little bit too slow there. Even if Neuer had got that off in time, we had the anti over the top that would have stopped that, keeping Sabotavi alive. Smugglers aren't out of this just yet, but they... Oh, okay, that's a big connect there on the anti-nade as well. And on the back of that, whole surge forward, and that's going to be the hold here. So close to the cap on C.
Mello just single-handedly holding that objective purely by the virtue of their anti-nades. Amazing placement, good timing. The resources that they have on the other side to keep themselves alive just not there because anti-nade. Transcendence, great, but you can't be healed, so it doesn't really do anything. It just saves Noya's life. Sabotabi was in the vicinity of Silent with both the Amp Matrix and the Regenerative Burst, but there was an anti-nade, so it didn't really help them much. Still got the Overclock on the Dragon, though.
Oh, they just didn't see Peacock coming, and he does it to him again. I'm losing count of the times this has paid off for the Humber Hunters. Munter can fight, but I don't think Munter can win. And we're down below 1 minute here on Iconball.
I feel like that's just the summary of the series so far. They didn't see Peacock coming, and what an anti-nade. Just like, and that kind of sums it up so far. But to be fair, both those issues are very solvable by just slightly more awareness, or just a hero that can block anti-nades or do something against them. You know, there is a hero in the game that can sort of cleanse anti-nade effects. I forgot their name. I think they're fairly new. No, it's a thing. We'll see if it ever comes out. That being said, Peacock again did not get spotted. The Bob in the backline too, and that is just cleaning up the backline of Bristol right now. Hole is running him over.
Like the Dragon is not always a big fight-winning ultimate, but a couple of kills with the Dragon, even just a bit of additional positioning gained, that would have been great. But it's just, and look, fantastic positioning over the cart at the back end of the fight, but just too little, too late, all because Peacock was sneaking around to the back line, took them out before the fight even started.
Would you say they were strutting a little?
Well, no, because strutting implies that it was done like forcefully and proudly, whereas it was very clearly
at this point,
I
it kind of feels like they're doing that, though.
I see what you're going for.
At this point, how sneaky is Peacock really being anymore? Because it kind of feels like it doesn't matter how they approach. Just kind of get in there and take care of business. So it almost becomes like a strutty sneak. It's really, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's kind of just a summary at the moment. They didn't see Peacock coming, and the beautiful anti-nades that are coming out from Mello. First map, first point, yeah, that was a little bit characterized by that res from Mechalodon. So most of the heroes and the players on the side of Hull are actually getting some plays off. It's not just those two, but that's just it's been so consistent that the Reaper is just uncontested in that backline that we got to find a way to stop that. And luckily, we got to give them a few minutes, aren't we, Phil?
Yeah, that's right. Everyone's had their play of the game, but it's time to go and think about what the next one's going to look like. We're going to give our teams 5 minutes to chat it out and see what the next step forward is, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
me feel like a bad girl. Feel like a bad girl. You make me feel. You make me like a bad girl. You make me feel. You make me feel like a bad girl. You make me feel like a bad girl. Feel like a bad girl. Feel like a bad girl.
Right, time's up. Cease your strategizing. It's time to get into game. We've got the map locked and loaded. We're on our way to Gibraltar for our payload map. And Classy, we've got some substitutions to talk about.
Yeah, Yorkshire's coming in for Megalodon. I think
warms my heart.
that's it. It's all the subs we have, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get the same game again, because we're going to Watchpoint Gibraltar. And if you thought Eichenwald had some high ground, well, let me have some news for you. This one has a lot more high ground. It's not as high, but it's still a lot.
It is probably the highest percentage of high ground, like as a ratio of high ground to map, I guess.
Probably, yeah. at least for how much it's used, for sure. Like the most used high ground, because Dorado has a lot of high ground as well, but it's only really in the streets phase, and they jump off it a lot, and it's one of those. So it's close, but it's not quite as close. But yeah, Watchpoint Gibraltar, I'm looking forward to it, and especially because if you want to give Bristol a chance at this, I feel like you got to find maps where you can use the range of DPS a little bit more than only having to fight against the Reaper that comes at you. And I think in a map like Gibraltar, you can probably get away with more things like Widow before the Reaper even gets to you. You already domed him in the head. But the teleports have been good. The sneaking up, that's been good. Peacock's kind of strutting through the back line at this stage. So we'll see if that actually becomes the case.
Yeah, I'd like to think that after everything that happened with Peacock in Eichenwalde, maybe they've slightly gotten wise to that now, and it'll be a little bit harder to do. I think the map itself is a little less tortuous than Eichenwalde, and so approaches like that are a little more obvious. Like, it is harder to sneak on people, particularly on point A and point B, maybe a little less so on C, because there are some workarounds on the back of the map that could let you be a little bit sneaky. But hopefully that's the end of the shenanigans from Peacock, and Bristol can start to put pay to that a little bit, because this is, of course, their last chance to get a point in the series. If they don't get a point on this one, if they don't win this map outright, I'm afraid that's it, and it's a 3-0 in favor of the Humber Hunters.
Yeah, and whereas there is some draw potential, I think in Gibraltar in particular, it's like the hardest map to get a draw on, just because of the nature that it goes usually. It's possible, you can see it happen, but I don't think we're going to go for it again. So yeah, Hull's going to start on the attack, it looks like. So we'll see as soon as the defense is coming out of spawn, which is Bristol, at least what they're going to be running with. I think the Sojourn is still really good. I don't think Sabatami has to necessarily swap off of it, but K has been swapping around a little bit more, and we can see the Soldier, see the Torbjorn, see the Echo, so they might have something else up on their sleeve that we haven't seen before. Hanzo we've even seen from them. And then obviously the tank line is really going to be fascinating, because there's a lot of high grounds, there's a lot of mobility you can do. Diva and Winston are very desirable choices, but yeah, I mean, some people just tend to go for a Sigma, or just want to run in with a Reinhardt, or just want to do whatever else they want to do. You've even seen some Roadhog play on this map that's been really good. So that's
well,
really
we've certainly seen some
Hunter.
Roadhog. We've seen some Roadhog play on this map. We'll go as far as that.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit, yeah. I do actually think K on the Hanzo here in particular makes a lot of sense. Again, we've sort of danced around the idea this is a very sniper-favored, if not sniper-heavy map. We've spoken about the Widowmaker. We've mentioned that Sojourn does have sort of that long-range capability. The Hanzo here provides a multitude of options for how you play the game, because it's there for shield break, it's there to dissuade tanks, and you just get that long range poke. And the guy fires basically tree trunks. Like, you find a corner to just spam with those arrows, you're more or less guaranteed a kill.
I think the nice part about it as well is that even if you get, for instance, like a Reaper into your backline, as long like when he ults, he's fairly stable, very stationary. So you can pretty much just shoot him in the head with the one Hanzo arrow and it's done. Like you don't have to worry about it anymore. Like it's a very quick reaction flick type of thing. Of course, you have to be ready for the flick as a Hanzo player, but it is a fairly doable thing. Now on the defense, we do see K come out on that Hanzo indeed. Sabotabi on the Tracer. Maybe not the most obvious pick on defense, but at least, you know, it's something new, it's something different, it's something that's hard to hit. And we're going to see Bunter on the Winston, also a new hero from them. So a lot of swaps, a lot of new stuff coming out here from the defense, from Bristol.
Yeah,
so and Hall is going to react to it.
As well as substitutions, worth noting, I Broadwell now on the support. Yorkshire brought in as a Widowmaker, seemingly for this map in particular. Not a particularly great angle right now, but now up on the high ground with a little more scope to play with, a bit more of a threat. You can see through the wireframe there that currently nobody really in their crosshairs. A lot of forward pressure being put down by Peacock on the Genji. In comes the dive from Munter. Hasn't been followed with a lot of support just yet. Has to jump back down to the low ground to escape. And we see the payload making inexorable progress here. Nice dive up from Charlie. Too much pressure up there with the Orb of Discord will force them back down.
Yeah, I brought really trying to go around that. Yorkshire trying to go around that side angle, around the cliff angle. I brought a little bit of pressure from the Winston, but Munter will be booped to their demise on the return from Charlie. Now going straight up onto the back line. Noya won't live long to see that one. It's only two people alive.
A little bit of danger there for Charlie as they did drop down to double-digit HP, but the supports are there, keeping them large and in charge and in the fight. And now the payload rounding that top of the slope here into the final corner into A. I expect we will get a recontest here. Yet we've already got Munter up on the high ground. You've got to get down and contest. We do have Peacock up on the Genji just to try and keep Munter honest, but that should allow him to still get down and touch.
Oh, no.
No way! Munter just gets bullied into oblivion, and the cap comes through uncontested.
Yeah, Yorkshire just gets a headshot and another body shot on it. Meanwhile, the damage boosting Charlie constantly damage boosts the Diva in their face. And yeah, you do have Sabotabi putting a little bit of pressure on this Widowmaker, but it's just not enough, and it takes so long to set up. They need something to deal with this Widowmaker or just this team a little bit more directly than slowly over time.
I mean, look, the Tracer is a great option here, but vertical mobility, not quite nothing, but pretty limited, and it means that Yorkshire can just get out of the way of that. 9 times out of 10, massive anti comes through. Peacock will weather the storm on that one, holds on to the blade for now. We'll have the potential for that big combo ultimate here. Going to take some time to take the turret down, and out it comes. Peacock with the blade, with the nano, with the slice, with the dice, with the back to spawn. Oh, big from Sabotabi, but I Broadwell takes him out. Too little, too late there. Still, great play from Sabotabi. Oh, we actually get the primal here, but just a touch, a snick too late. And Munter wastes the primal and gives over a lot of ult charge here. They'll find Peacock at the back end of the ultimate and might just get out of dodge on that one, but really would have liked that for later in the fight.
Yeah, once again, I mean, that pulse bomb is great from Sabotabi. It's an absolutely beautiful play, but it takes so long to set up, so long to get there. It's why players will often go for like a Genji to counter it, because you have more vertical mobility. You can still get there in a lot more in a linear fashion than the Tracer, who kind of has to boop around, who comes to the high ground. It just takes forever to get there.
Okay, we'll have the tank swap. Munter now on the Zarya here. Both bubbles already burned. Nano boost onto Sabotabi. Charlie's not interested in that noise at all. Instead, going after the real threat, of course, the Torbjorn. Good spread here on the Molten Core. Will momentarily slow the roll, but of course, Yorkshire, long way back, doesn't care about the Molten Core. Just gonna click some heads. Munter down to their own right click here, and that's gonna be Hull just surging in towards spawn. Recall burnt from Sabotabi, and we're moving on to the end of C for Hull.
We also talk a lot about target priority, like which targets do you focus, how well do you do it as a team, and so far there seems to be a lot of focus on things that just aren't dying. Like DPS, they're being bucketed by Mercy, a Diva is being bucketed by Mercy. They never go after the Mercy. That being said, though, they got a little bit of value there, cut the DMAC, but then obviously there's all of a sudden the self-destruct. It's in the way, a blade to finish it off. That might just be it for this attack.
Yeah, I mean, great there from Peacock. Sabotabi basically zipped under them with the blink. Peacock straight down, slices them through the top of the head, and they fall apart. And that is a very, very quick hap here on Gibraltar. Like, from the start to the finish, you lose 5 seconds of time bank. That is very quick.
Yeah, the whole map takes about 8 minutes, I think, in this particular setup. So yeah, they spent about 4 minutes and 5 seconds to get through it. If it's not 7 and it's 3 minutes 5, it might actually be 7 minutes total.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can figure out the maths when we get the time remaining up on screen when we see our next round of attack here. But this is a very, very steep mountain to climb here for Bristol.
Yeah, I mean, I would say quite literally, but I think there's not that many uphills in this game. It's mostly in this map. It's mostly downhills. So it's a tall mountain to climb to push a cart, mostly downhill.
I think this metaphor can only become so much more tortured before we need to talk to The Hague about human rights.
Probably, right? Well,
yeah.
I mean, they're close. I could talk to them. It's okay.
Just pop on over.
That being said, we can also talk a little bit about this defensive Junkrat pick, because Peacock has had enough of trying to play heroes that are optimized for certain settings. They're just going to go with Chaos. I mean, so far, Chaos has been the name of the game for them anyway, so might as well continue it and go for the ultimate embodiment of it, which is the Junkrat. I mean, normally also a little bit of the option of the May, but May is currently not available, so there's only one, and it is Junkrat.
Okay, so for those of you maybe looking at that and wondering what exactly it is that Peacock is doing by being in that emote, you get a third-person perspective and can get an idea of when they're actually in trouble. We did get Charlie momentarily playing bait there, but no one has taken that bait and gone up onto the high ground just yet. Oh, if they have, they've managed to dodge that trap entirely, and just kind of a scuffle here. Munter gets into the back and isolates iBroad. Well, that is a big opening here, but they need to get out without that being equalized. They've got to be quick off the mark here.
That is the right target to go for, though. Like I was alluding to it before at the end of the last round, they're just not really prioritizing supports, even though the supports are the main reason that these targets are staying alive on the other side, as supports are often known to do. So it will be in their best interest to go after iBroadwell and Mellow a little bit more, especially now that there's no Mercy anymore.
Totally. Good use there from Peacock of the mines to get out of the incoming damage. Did see them momentarily kept honest by the Orb of Discord from Neuer, but they've not been able to convert that on the side of Smugglers into actual point presence gain. Great dodge there on the sleep. Munter pops the adaptive shields to weather the inevitable storm of the anti-nade. Big hack comes through and Yorkshire's down, but whilst the hack is happening, Peacock's getting two with the mines. You're about to see Munter get minefield of their own coming up here as well, but as they've lost team members here, they probably want to wait before initiating.
2 minutes 20 on the clock. The card's been pushed in a bit. They got some ultimates coming up. This is a pretty good place to be in.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know, that happens, I guess.
UFOs. Mellow down. Munter with an opener. Neuer equalised though. Did get the minefield out. Nobody really caught in that. It's down to Sabotabi to get down onto the payload and try and convert that into some push progress here. And in this next engage, they will have the EMP, and there is nothing on board for Hunters to counter this ultimate.
Now you want to drag them down into one spot, particularly on the objective, and just EMP it out. iBroadwell trapped in the backline still, but it's Peacock that finds the first pick together with the rest of their team, and it's Peacock.
It's a big assist.
Oh no! Oh yeah, no!
Everybody but Yorkshire in on that kill here, and Charlie doing a good job here of keeping Peacock alive. Good sleep, good look getting out of that one. Silent. Great presence of mind here from Munter to dive in and buy some space, pressure out Charlie, and keep Silent alive for this next engage.
Silent with the nano ready as well. They got to find a window to use this EMP in, though. Yorkshire will fall early, so that's a good start to this fight.
Okay, we're looking for a big EMP here. Needs to hit a couple and secure the kill. As K up onto the high ground, will find two here. Peacock focused, nano onto Sabotabi. Trying to get the rundown on Charlie, but the rally keeps them alive through that, and it means that they survive and keep their tank in the fight here. Silent down as well. Transcendence from Neuer will keep Munter alive, but now there's no one to keep Neuer alive. Munter had to back out and get some momentum and get themselves back in the fight. They're down to 1 HP and then 0, and we, Classy, are down to 30 seconds on the clock.
30 seconds before the series might be over, and it was such a shame. It was a good EMP, but it's something that we keep seeing here from the side of Bristol. They just aren't able to focus down one target as a squad. Keep going for these sort of duel-esque setups. Now they do it. They jump on the Mellow as a team. Now they're in the server room as a team. Can they get the Ana? No.
No, but great defense there from Munter. Again, interposes themselves between the follow-up damage on the sleep. Munter finds Yorkshire, runs them down, and drops the minefield. Buying some pressure. Peacock pulls out the pin on the tyre, but there's nobody there to touch. Munter was too busy tying up the fight at the front of the point, and that is where it ends. Such a shame here for Bristol.
As many have already said, the payload isn't real and it can't hurt you. But unfortunately, it does matter if you want to win games that you have to touch it. It does heal you actually, so sometimes. But yeah, no, it's unfortunate. Bristol just not connecting with the targets that they wanted to connect with at times, and everything just came together for Hull, I guess.
It really did. And I think coming back again to talk about the level of player that we have for Hull, again, I'm talking specifically about Broadwell, who we saw perform over a couple of different roles, but also Peacock, who on those DPS picks, even the Junkrat, surprisingly, was like a really, really good showing from Peacock. Like, if you don't have those players local to your arena, you can find yourself in this kind of situation. And I do think that Bristol put up a very, very spirited fight here. Lots of very good individual moments, but just like lacking that last little bit of cohesion to make them a truly competitive team here.
Yeah, there's a little bit more. And of course, there's still a couple of weeks left to go. So plenty of time for Bristol to still, smooth out some edges, get some new stuff. There's a new meta coming eventually because there's going to be a new patch on the 15th is what we have been told. So in a couple of weeks, a lot that can change. I mean, we've seen everything that changed in the Overwatch League because of that patch. Maybe they'll be the same in this particular event.
Maybe.
I would certainly like to see some things being shaken up. It's always the best time for esports when things aren't in a status quo situation. So I'm very curious about it. And I'm very curious to see where this is going to go for the rest of the season.
Well, we should be about at that patch drop marker the next time we're on your screens. That's going to be in 2 weeks' time. Of course, don't forget there is plenty more esports action happening throughout this week and next week. Just because we're not here doesn't mean there's nothing for you to watch on a Wednesday. We do, of course, have plenty more action coming your way. But for today, from myself, from Matt of Class, and all the lovely people here at Belong, keeping these streams up and running, that's going to be all. And we'll see you personally in a couple of weeks.
See you then.